Jack Johnson was a big inspiration because of what he did out of the ring. He was so bold. Jack Johnson was a black man back when white people lynched Negroes on weekends, every weekend. Back in 1909, they would send him letters saying, "You fighting a white man, and nigger, if you knock him out, we'll kill you." He said, "Just kill my black buckers, I'm gonna knock this white man cold."
Something that has always fascinated me, just from a historical standpoint. I've always been a history nerd, always got A+ in history class and all that. And when the internet came out, one of the first things that I would research and look up would be old boxing matches. And when I mean old, I mean like 1890s and 1910 and 1920, and when boxers were, black boxers were causing riots because, they beat up a white dude and people were taking falls and things like that. But can you talk to us about what you know about that time period? And it doesn't even have to necessarily be about black boxers, but I would love to know any stories that you know about boxers causing riots or how they were living their life back then.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Jack Johnson. I mean, this dude, they would fight like 45 rounds back then.
Yes,
and
bro.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, how long were the rounds? Like, they couldn't have been 3 minutes. But there's footage of him hitting a guy so hard that he raked the guy's teeth out of his glove. That's how hard he hit this guy. And, yeah, he was just a ruthless guy. Back then he would date white women, which was unheard of. And he won. Have you heard the story where he got pulled over by a police officer for speeding? Have you heard that?
Oh, tell it. Even if I have, tell it.
Yeah, he was speeding through, I forget what city, and the cop was I guess he wanted to give him a ticket for $50. So Jack Johnson gave him 100, and the guy's like, "I can't give you change." He said, "No, keep the other 50. I'll be coming back this way doing the same speed."
Love that shit. And $100 in 1920 or whatever. That's like probably a few thousand now, like legit.
Oh yeah. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, 100 back then. Oof. Yeah. Wow.
Oh yeah, we're talking 1910, dog. So this is over 110 years ago. Is when his victory over Jim Jeffries, which was known as the fight of the century, led to a race riot across America, dog. Across America. Says he was arrested in 1912 for transporting a white woman across state lines and wasn't officially pardoned until over a century later in 2018. Johnson transcended boxing to become a cultural icon, which is impact. So yeah, definitely Jack Johnson, dude. Yeah, he was. He had that jungle fever back when you couldn't have that jungle fever without getting. This is what 40. This is slavery quote ended in 1860. This is 35, 40. This is like 45 years after slavery, and he's walking around with a white chick on his arm. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's like like the Public Enemy scope. Like he had that scope on him, and I guess he's just like, "Hey, I don't care." I was like, "Wow, that's some heart right there." When we talk about courage, that's courage right there, man.
Yeah,
that is. There's a movie about him a long time ago where James Earl Jones plays Jack Johnson, but I've only seen bits and pieces.
Same here. I looked at it on YouTube. I haven't actually sat down and watched the movie, but I know exactly what movie you're talking about. And one day I'll have to give it a watch for sure.
That's where Ali got his courage from. He watched Jack Johnson documents. He said, "I'm nothing compared to Jack Johnson." Jack Johnson. Listen. In 1908, you got lynched for looking at white women, reckless eyeballing. He married 3 of them. Wow. I don't put myself in the league of Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson's fighting in the ring, and there's 75,000 people saying, "I'm going to kill your nigga if you hurt him. I'm going to kill your wife. I'm going to hang a fucker. We're going to tar and feather that bitch because she's white."
They say I'm controversial. They say that I'm bold, but I wasn't nothing like Jack Johnson. You must remember now, this is a black man. Think about how we were treated here. They had lynchings and and burnings, and every time he'd fight, they lynched Negroes and burn houses, and that's history. This man was told, if you beat this white man, we're going to shoot you from the audience. He said, "Well, just shoot my black so-and-so because I'm going to knock him out." And he's walking around the streets with white women, beating up white men. He had to be a courageous man, so I just admire him for more so than his boxing ability. But in those days, there was no television, no airplanes, no press media, and they lynched Negroes and news didn't leave a certain state. He had the nerve to be beating up white men and daring them to get up and knowing they might kill him.
For his time, he was a defensive genius. Because everybody back then, those times, would just make the fist and just take the punches, let's just move away. When he would just catch them in the air. Because back then they only do 2, 3 punches, and he could anticipate them, watch them catch them in the air. And back then it was a big time. But nowadays it would be so much difficult to do that because people are throwing 7, 8 punches at a time. Consistent punches, and one of them has to catch you if you're not elusive with your body. Since he wasn't elusive with his body or his feet, he just caught the punches at the air.
Jack Johnson, America's first black heavyweight champion, inspired so much hatred in white America that in the 19 years since the end of his reign, no black fighter was given the opportunity to even challenge for the heavyweight crown.
I think Jack Johnson saw his job in life as pissing off white America. He married white women, he flaunted his wealth, he gloated over fallen opponents, he had those gold teeth, and he flashed that smile.
And he would knock the white man out, and the Ku Klux Klan would be burning them. They killed Negroes all over the country. When Jack Johnson wanted to fight, they had riots all over South America. It was so serious, and Jack Johnson, he's bad. He had to be a bad, bad black man. Wasn't no black Muslims to defend him, wasn't no NAACP in 1909, wasn't no Rap Brown, wasn't no MOVE, all these black groups, wasn't no Angela Davis, no Hill Newton, no Malcolm X. He was by himself, Jack Johnson.
We all sort of have heard of Jack Johnson, had a very tough life and an interesting life. One of the greatest fighters, Lennox was just telling me, one of the greatest fighters ever. The early 1900s. Today, as president, I've issued an executive grant of clemency, a full pardon, posthumously, to John Arthur Jack Johnson. He was known as Jack Johnson, the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world, a truly great fighter, had a tough life. They say he violated the Mann Act, and he had a conviction that occurred during a period of tremendous racial tension in the United States more than a century ago. Johnson served 10 months in federal prison for what many view as a racially motivated injustice. He was treated very rough, very tough. In light of these facts and in recognition of his historical athletic achievements and the contributions to society, he really represented something that was both very beautiful and very terrible at the same time. I believe that Jack Johnson is a very worthy person to receive a full pardon, and in this case, a posthumous pardon.